So hello everyone and welcome to this week's YouTube video. I'm Michael Ingledew and I'm all about making you successful with your technical information, technical communication strategies. So over the last few weeks we've been running a survey on our website that has asked you the kind of content and the kind of stuff you want us to do here at TDW. And firstly, to everybody that has actually put in all of your comments and suggestions, thank you. It really does mean a lot. Actually, it seems that a lot of what we're doing is what you want to see more of, but we have had some great suggestions. So if you haven't put in your suggestions yet, go to our website, a little survey will pop up and you'll be able to answer that for us. I'll put a link down below as well. Now, one of the questions, and we are working through all of the questions, and there has been quite a lot, so thank you for that. One of the questions is, what are the books that I can recommend for technical communicators in our market? Now, this was, I thought, was a really good question, and I do have a raft of books in my arsenal, but what I thought I would do is I would show you the 3 books that I use regularly or I have used to develop my skills and knowledge, and then at the end I'll share with you the book that I am reading at the moment, which is super interesting, super nerdy. If you're as nerdy as I am, you'll enjoy this. So let's go for the first book that actually this is the very first book. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see, I'll put it up here. This is one of the very first books that I bought when I started getting into structured authoring, and this is the SGML handbook, and it's written by Charles Goldfarb himself, and which, if you understand the history of SGML and structured languages, you know, he's a kind of key player in that domain. And if you do any of my technical communication courses and we look at SGML and XML, we talk about the role he played, and I bring this book along to my training courses so the students can have a read and have a look at that. And I don't believe it's in print anymore, but you can get hold of it second hand. And for me, this book was kind of the founding principles of understanding the structured languages and understanding what we were trying to achieve with monolithic and technical content as we would write it normally, and how we wanted to present it electronically. And whilst, you know, XML has superseded a lot of the content of this book and some of it is no longer relevant anymore, it's still a very, very good book for you to understand the principles and the processes behind structured languages, and more importantly, why we do what it is that we do. I think at the time, I've had this now probably 10, 15 years, maybe longer. Back then it was 60, 70 quid, this book, and it's probably as expensive now. So it's probably an antique. It might be worth something. So I mentioned XML. I've got lots of XML books, and you know, actually you don't really need an XML book. Just go to W3C website and they've got loads of stuff on there about XML. But a book that I like, the series of books that I like, are the SAM's Teach Yourselves books. And I started with the XML series of the SAM's books, and I think this is the 3rd edition now. Yeah, so I'm on the 3rd edition now, and it talks. This is really geared more towards web developers, but it has a lot of relevance to what it is that we're doing in our sector in terms of technical information and how XML works, and why it's important to things like S1000D and DITA and that kind of stuff. Doesn't mention any of those specifications in here, at least I'm saying that. I don't think it does, but it's very database driven. It's very, you know, what is XML, how it works, that kind of stuff. So that's my second book. Don't go to this one as much anymore because obviously XML is kind of what I do a lot of. But that's my second book, and especially if you're getting into structured languages, understand the XML first, then you'll understand what's going on in the background when you come to looking at things like S1000D schemas and that kind of stuff. You'll know what it is you're actually talking about. My third book is not really a technical information book. It's an ILS handbook So Integrated Logistics Support Handbook. This is in its 3rd edition. I had to buy this one second hand, and I actually found this one in a bookshop in Germany, believe it or not, and very expensive. It was I believe I paid over 100 quid for this. What's that? 120, 130 US dollars, and so I paid quite a lot of money for it. Now, often I will have a conversation with somebody that I just need to go and refresh my mind on what we mean on the wider ILS topics, and this book has proven to be invaluable to me. Now, if you have or plan to do any of the ILS based training that Peter Studdard does at Aspire, he has this book and many others based on ILS and reliability and all that kind of stuff in his office, but this is the one that I use. Again, I bought it second hand, and yeah, it's one of those that's staple. It sits on my shelf and I go and grab it. So those are my 3 books that I recommend, that if you can get hold of them, go get hold of them and have a good read. Now, I don't sit and read them cover to cover. I flick through them and have a look at some of the principles and the processes and some of the, you know, the fundamentals of what's going on, and then I you know, maybe do a little bit of web research or that kind of stuff. But those are my, you know, my 3 main books, and I promised you, if you hung around to the end, that I would share with you the book that I'm reading right now. And I am a nerd when it comes to this stuff, and I know many of you out there in the Ulu that are following me are also very nerdy. But the book that I'm reading at the moment, Why Fonts Matter. And this is a super interesting book, and it talks about the psychology of fonts, and it talks about how our brain reacts chemically when it sees information that's presented in a certain way. And why am I reading this book? Well, not only is that super interesting, I'm going to do some tutorials on this as well, but I want to look at the psychology of how we present maybe warnings, cautions and notes, and how we can possibly draw the human eye and change the chemical makeup of the brain when it's presented with a warning or a caution or something else. So this book is, the young lady Sarah Hindman who wrote it, she's written a couple of books on this subject, and this is the first one that I've bought. She's done lots of interviews for the BBC and TED Talks and that kind of stuff. You can follow her on YouTube. I'll put a link down to her. I don't know if she's on YouTube. She's definitely on Twitter. You can follow her on Twitter. We're following her on Twitter, and she talks about how these fonts make us react, respond and feel. And you know, we're starting a new series here at TDW, which is we're not quite sure what we're going to call it yet, either Between the Tags or Between the Text. We don't know. What do you think? And but this kind of stuff matters when it comes to presenting information from our perspective. So watch out for some tutorials coming your way on this. And I take absolutely 0 credit for them. They are all you know, based on what I learn and glean from this book, but we will obviously try and apply it to how we produce content in our market. So those are my 4 books. What are your books? Send me your suggestions for books that you use in our market. Now, I did a long time ago, when I first got into technical authoring, there was a big book that was called Technical Communication in Aerospace. And I've been through all of my storage boxes and all, can't find it anywhere, can't find it on any second-hand bookstores. And I know that a couple of my old technical authoring friends have got copies of it, so I've reached out to them. I'll do a separate tutorial on that when it comes out. Very, very good book. It introduced the concepts of technical authoring in aerospace, but this is going back a long time ago now, so it's probably changed a great deal. But if I can hunt that down and find it, I'll put something on YouTube on that as well. But those are my books. What are your books? Don't forget, subscribe, like, share. Keep sending in your suggestions, what you want from us here at TDW. We've got some great suggestions, and we are going to pump out some more content for you. And make sure you download and install our app, where you will get the content that we release first in your pocket before anybody else does. I'm Michael Ingledew. I'm all about making you successful with your technical information strategies.